Welcome back to A24 Quest!
Yeah, the show that I'm actually very excited for now. Well, I was excited for... Okay, so I've been through a whole range of emotions, alright?
Have you?
This is going to be the best episode of A24 Quest yet, and I'm going to tell you why. We have had such a long hiatus, and we haven't done it for so long. The first movie I watched was Barely Lethal, and it made me question why we're even doing this. And then the second movie was Mississippi Grind, which is a movie that is so... Well, we'll discuss it more, but I really liked it to the point where, like, it just, if I would go seek it out if it weren't an A24 movie. It's just a great movie. I'm flustered because I've just eaten some ice cream. Welcome to the episode. How's it going, Josh? How's your life been?
Wait, are you telling me you ate a Spam and onion sandwich and then ate ice cream right after?
Absolutely. That
sounds awful.
That was my supper.
Oh my god, that sounds horrid. Anyway,
yeah, it was pretty bad. Honestly, at the end, I was just like, ugh, why do I do this to myself?
My zipper is showing.
Speaking of why do I do this to myself, do you want to start off with Barely Lethal?
That was a pretty good segue.
Okay.
Give me props. Yeah, let's talk about Barely Lethal. I loved it. I loved how absolutely stupid it was.
Okay, Josh sent me a text this morning, and he's like, I've seen Barely Lethal, and you're gonna love Barely Lethal, and I was like, oh no. I know Josh well enough to know that, like, when he says that, it's like, and then I was like, okay, cool, I'll watch Barely Lethal first, and then, like, halfway through it, I remember texting you something like, I hate you, or something like that.
Yep.
I was like,
Yep.
I blame you for this, even though it's literally neither of our fault. It's just the movie we happened to sequentially come
across. And we
across.
Didn't even pick it.
No, exactly. It was just the one we had to watch.
Ran into, yeah.
So it's not your fault, but I still blame you.
That's okay.
Because... where to begin with this one?
So you got Samuel L. Jackson. You got Jessica Elba. You got Dove Cameron. And then you got whoever that main girl is. I forget her name.
I don't know. She's probably not in anything else because she sucks.
No, she's definitely in other things. I just don't remember her name. But anyway, this is basically like a Disney Channel movie.
Yeah,
basically.
Right. Yeah, no, it feels like a Disney Channel movie.
So let's talk about the plot for a second.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you. Okay, before you started watching it, you saw the cover of it. It's this bright pink cover. I was like, okay, this is gonna be like a Mean Girls kind of
with guns
teen thing. I didn't see the guns.
I
didn't pay that close attention.
No, they're all holding guns in the photo.
I didn't see that.
Or at least some of them are holding guns.
And so I was just like, this is going to be some weird teen movie that's kind of dumb.
I thought so too. I thought it was going to be Mean Girls, but like an action movie. And it's like, that's interesting, I guess.
But then I started watching it, and the first thing is this animated intro of babies.
Which reminded me of Boss Baby, actually.
That grew up into little children who were then kung fu fighting.
Yeah.
And
if there's a single halfway redeeming element of the movie, it's that intro, because it was genuinely kind of creative. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of, like... there's a shot of a girl and it looks like she's dancing. She's got like dancing get up, and then the shot zooms out and she's actually kicking a dude in the face. Like it's somewhat creative, and then it stops and the creativity flatlines harder than I've ever seen in any movie ever. So basically, it's this school that trains girls to become assassins from baby age.
It's Red Sparrow.
Yeah.
According to what I've heard about Red Sparrow.
Yeah, it's Red Sparrow, but before Red Sparrow. So Red Sparrow totally ripped off Barely Lethal.
Maybe that's why Red Sparrow got such bad reviews.
Yeah, I mean, I bet it was better than Barely Lethal.
I mean, have you seen it?
No.
Well, that's...
But, I'll tell you this, Barely Lethal's worse than any movie I've ever seen, so...
Really? I wouldn't say it's worse than any movie I've ever seen.
I put it on right on the bottom for my list I keep under The Captive.
That's below The Captive.
It is currently my least favorite A24 movie.
Okay,
yet.
you need to rewatch The Captive.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
And Barely Lethal to see which one's actually worse. Because I don't.
I mean,
I don't
maybe
believe that.
Maybe The Captive is like actually worse but I hate Barely Lethal more for what it is.
That's understandable.
I hate The Captive for what it isn't, and I hate Barely Lethal for what it is. Like, The Captive isn't interesting. Barely Lethal is what it wants to be. However, what it wants to be is stupid.
It's just the antithesis of what you entirely are.
Oh, that's true, and it's a personal thing. Like when there's
you took it so
I took
personally.
it very personally. You know why? Like there's literally a scene. I'm a sound engineer. That's my sound and light engineer.
God.
That's my thing. There's a scene where a guy is playing a concert and there's the mic and he's like 7 feet away from the mic and you can hear him perfectly and I'm like, this movie's trying to anger me. There's that little detail. I was like, this movie is actively trying to anger me. So let's continue on with the plot synopsis.
So it personally attacked. I like that. I like how this movie was a personal attack on Colin.
It was. It very much was.
So anyway, they have this school training children to be
Yeah.
assassins, because no one's gonna expect a child. At least that's what she says in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then
the main character kills somebody, and it kind of glosses right over it.
but she says she doesn't.
She did what?
She said she doesn't kill anybody.
Well, there's that scene where she's like, nobody expects a kid, and then it's her in the train.
Well, but it doesn't show her killing. I'm assuming.
I think
it's
it's implying that she either knocked out or killed him.
I'm saying knocked out because later in the movie she has that stupid part on the roof where they sound like they're talking about sex, but they're talking about killing people.
Oh, I wasn't even paying attention. I thought they just were talking about sex.
No, they were talking.
I'm talking about stabbing people, right? Because she was like, it only counts if you go all the way in.
Yeah.
Is that what she was talking about? Because that
Yeah,
girl,
she was
that
acting-
girl stabbed somebody with a corn dog.
Yeah. Because she stabbed somebody. Yeah, she did stab somebody with a corn dog. But no, they were talking about how like she hadn't killed anybody and she wants her first time to be special.
Okay, alright.
Yeah, so there's that. Anyway, so then you got Jessica Alba. She's the bad person. Turns out, spoiler alert for the end of the movie, nobody cares. She was the first person to be part of the assassin program. Samuel L. Jackson.
That was like the lamest twist ending ever. Because she was
Yeah.
like, I'm number one. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah,
it changes literally nothing.
It doesn't.
Like,
It's really bad.
it serves to make the character slightly more interesting, but she's still not interesting at all.
No.
Like,
She's just a very good-looking Jessica Alba.
yeah.
That's it. That's all she's really got for this movie. So Samuel L. Jackson trains these children, a lot of little girls, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And then sends them out on a mission to go capture Jessica Alba, who's bad. And she does. And then she says, I'm dead.
You're missing a big chunk in the middle of the movie where this movie forgets that whole thing and it becomes a high school comedy.
Well, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I'm getting to that very important part. So she fakes her death.
Right, because they
beginning.
defeat her twice, once in the beginning. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry,
You thought I was already at the
I
end.
thought you were already at the end. I was like, well, hold on, Buster. We gotta talk about a whole lot more before we get there.
Oh, God, that would be really funny, though, wouldn't it? Anyway, so she fakes her death, and then she's like, I'm going to go to high school because I want companionship. So she does.
She utters the line, Mission High School is a go. Or, like, Operation High School is a go.
She does. She really
And I was
does.
like, I hate this movie.
And it's really bad. And she has cutouts of teen magazines under an operation
and
board.
she watches Mean Girls. In the movie, she watches Mean Girls a bunch.
And
so
then
you were kind of right about that.
Kind of. And then she takes every single stereotypical movie reference for a teen movie, and she's like, well, this is real life.
And it's like that could have been interesting, but like all the characters are so stupid she didn't stand out. Like everybody talks in movie cliches.
Yeah.
If everybody was like real people and she only talked in movie cliches, that would have been kind of a cool idea. But you got the sister character, the adopted sister character, who is like, she's the witty one, and she talks like that dude from Deadpool, the TJ, that guy.
Yeah.
She talks like him, where like every line is like a witty pun, and it's just, in Deadpool it's almost funny, and this is just annoying.
Well, in Deadpool it's meant to be like that. It's meant to be that character.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole point in this.
And it's meant to be like that in this one. It's just the writers aren't good.
Yeah.
and
the nerd guy is just the nerd guy, and the cool guy is just the cool guy. And guess what? She wants to go for the cool guy, and then when she does, she's like, maybe it's not the person I like.
Yeah.
And then she goes for the nerd guy, and then it becomes its own cliche on its own. That's stupid.
That plot was so cliche. I was 100% convinced they were going to do something with it. Because the whole idea of the movie was that this girl lives in cliches, and I thought the fact that she's pining after the cool guy, but the nerdy one's the one that she's really going to end up with, I thought they were going to turn that on its head somehow, but they did it. She just ends up with him at the end.
Yep.
And I don't think
comes and flies down in a helicopter, stops the car.
For a movie that is pretending to be self-aware. For a movie that's pretending to be self-aware, it's completely unaware of what it is.
It is. It's
like,
really bad.
It's not clever. It's not well done. It's not well written.
The stupidest part is it acknowledges that cliches are dumb and not clever and well done.
And yet it has the perfect opportunity to turn an overused cliche on its head, and it just never happens. It plays out how you'd expect it to.
Yeah.
And like when she goes to the prom, and the nerdy guy he brought a date, and she's like, but in this case it's the agent who's trying to kill her. And this is where we get back to at the weirdest times, at the most inappropriate times, it turns into a spy thriller occasionally, and it's always out of place. It's like,
well, yeah, like all of a sudden she's like, I can't believe you're dating the guy I actually want, and then the other girl's like, fine, and then they start literally kung fu fighting.
Yeah. That is the thing that happens. It's like a cat fight.
Those cats were fast as lightning.
It's like a cat fight, but it ends with a knife.
No, it ends with a corn dog.
Oh, well, yeah, but it ends with her stalking the other one around with a knife. And she says the line, this is how I always pictured it would end. Me with a knife, you with it in you. And this is the level of writing this movie is.
I actually really love that line. I wish that was in more movies.
It was so dumb, it made me laugh. I was
exactly.
Like, are you kidding me right now?
That can't be on purpose. I can't imagine that was on purpose. But if it was, that's so stinking funny.
That's like something that would be in a comedy where a bad guy says something and they're like, that didn't sound as cool as I thought it did in my head.
You know what that actually sounds like?
What?
That sounds like something directly out of like Naked Gun.
Yeah, it does.
This is how I imagined it. Me with a knife and wait, what was it?
And you with it in you, or something like that.
Oh my god, that sounds exactly like something like that.
It's like,
like Police Squad or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I see where you're coming from. It's like a Zucker Brothers line.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think it was supposed to be a funny line. I think it was supposed to be a threatening line, which is so weird, because this movie's kind of a comedy. And there's nothing worse than a bad comedy. Like a bad drama that's occasionally funny, aka The Captive.
No, we have to make sure we make the difference between a bad comedy and a dumb comedy.
This is a bad comedy.
This is a bad comedy.
Yeah. A dumb comedy is Scary Movie.
Scary Movie.
Yeah.
That's a dumb comedy. Super Bad. That's a dumb comedy.
Yes.
I'm not saying they're bad movies, but they're dumb.
This is a movie that's trying to be funny and it fails.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yep.
There was one good joke.
What was it?
Well, there was two okay jokes, and one of them was like, could have been great, but the setup was terrible. It was when the two of them are in the bathroom, and then they leave, and the camera pans over, and there's like a kid on the toilet, and he's like,
what the fuck? fuck?
Yeah, that one.
That was pretty good.
I was like, that could actually be great, but the thing is, that joke is completely bent on you realize that the things that the two characters were saying sound really weird out of context, but that wasn't really the case.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of did, but not, like, awful.
Yeah, no, they need to go way over the top with it. They need... The scene before... In order for that joke to land... Okay, this is comedy science. In order for that punchline to land, the scene before it, you have to have a realization in that scene that, like, wow, what they're saying right now could be really weird to hear if you're not familiar with the context. But I never had that, because I was like, oh, they're just talking, you know, like, boring stuff about the plot, and then they leave, and then the kid does that. And it's like, that punchline is funny, but the setup is terrible.
Yep.
And then the other one was when Samuel L. Jackson's got her tied to a chair. And he's like, who are you working for? She's like, I'm not working for anybody. Actually, last summer I worked for Sbarro. And he was like,
yeah, that's right.
Victor von Sbarro, when the hell were you in Syria?
And then Steve-O comes out of nowhere and he's like, no, it's a small pizza chain.
They make great breadsticks.
Oh my god.
And I was like, this is like...
I couldn't believe Steve-O was in this movie.
Exactly. It's like, this is like actually funny. And it felt really out of place. I bet it's because Steve-O was there.
Yeah.
He was like, I could make this scene funny.
Out of nowhere, there's this like heavily tattooed Steve-O, and he's just
was
like...
that actually Steve-O? Or
I
was it
think
just
it
a
was.
dude that looked like Steve-O?
Here, look,
Because like I saw that, I was like, oh wow. Look at Steve-O
yeah,
over
no,
here.
it was so bizarre that I was just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It was just...
No, that scene was actually half decent. And there was a couple okay jokes in that scene. I don't know what happened. And then, because it's like... And the main girl's comedic performance and her timing in that scene was good. And maybe... Maybe if it was Steve-O, I mean, even if it wasn't, maybe something
Yeah, no,
happened.
that was definitely Steve-O.
Okay, well, maybe if Steve-O was there and he was just like...
Definitely Steve-O.
Josh just showed me a picture of Steve-O at the premiere.
And his face is just so... In every picture he's in, he's just got this big face with just a huge smile.
Proud. He's so proud to be in this movie.
So many large smiles. Oh, wow. I love that,
so yeah,
man.
for whatever reason, that scene was funny, and then it went back to being stupid.
Yeah.
Like, that was the only scene that was, like, actually funny. The other scenes were lines like the knife line, where it's like, it's not really trying to be funny, but it is funny, and when it was trying to be funny, it was so unfunny that it was painful.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many just, like, uncomfortable teen moments.
Yeah.
Where-
And oh, okay,
Yeah.
it's well known, well documented, I don't like teen movies, so that played a huge factor in how much I hated this movie.
For sure.
But I feel like even if I loved teen movies, I'd probably not like this at all.
Now,
But I might not hate it as vehemently as I
how
do.
much did you love the teacher who decided to almost have this weird homosexual relationship with Cash? The sexy teen kid?
Yeah, right.
He's like, cold hard Cash.
The gay teacher was an interesting addition.
I don't think he was supposed to be gay.
I don't know, man. The last scene we see him is when the girl leaves Cash, and then that teacher swoops in and puts his hand around Cash. He's like, women, who needs them? And he looks right at him. And I was like, what?
I don't think
This is so weird.
I don't think he's supposed to be read as a gay character. I just think he's just supposed to be weird and creepy.
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, no.
You know who else is weird and creepy? The nerdy kid's dad.
I mean, yeah, but you know, I actually thought those bits were actually a little funny.
There was
Some
a
of
couple of
them.
them that were okay.
So I guess you lost your virginity, so that is only fair that I tell you how I lost mine.
I was gonna say, that was the third one that was, like, actually kind of funny. It was like, she was much older than me. She was about 65.
She was my babysitter.
Yeah. And at that point,
She was a gentle lover.
I was, like, happy because the movie was about over, and I was like, okay, I'll give you that one movie, but okay, so there's 3 okay lines. But the rest of the stuff the dad said was very, very...
very dumb.
bad.
I mean, that actor does that all the time in everything I've seen
I
him
don't
in.
think I recognized him.
Oh, he's been in quite a few things. I don't remember his name, but he's been in quite a few things, and he always kind of plays kind of a dumb character. Funny,
Okay.
but dumb.
Alright.
But overall, this movie's bad.
Yeah, I gave it lowest score possible.
It's low, but it's definitely not below Ginger and Rosa and The Captive and a few of the others we've seen.
Okay.
But it's definitely low.
Fair enough. Okay.
And that's coming from a guy who doesn't hate teen movies or Disney Channel movies like Colin does.
So yeah, for Josh, it's one of the worst, and for me, it is not only the worst I've seen in this quest. It's probably one of my least favorite movies now. I haven't been this angry about a movie since Kung Fu Master.
Oh my god, that's really funny. That's really funny.
I was just sitting there, 10 o'clock a.m., and I was like seething angry. I was like, I need a drink.
Oh, that's really funny.
Man.
So, then Mississippi Grind.
Yes, and then I took a quick break because I needed a breather. I felt like it would be unhealthy to go right into Mississippi Grind because I thought it might skew my experience a little bit, so I took like an hour break. And then I went to Mississippi Grind, and I tried to not think about Barely Lethal when watching it.
Now, I've seen the cover of Mississippi Grind a few times, and one time I was looking at it, like scrolling through, looking at it, whatnot, and seeing, it. And my parents both thought that the main guy was Dennis Hoffman.
Really? Because I thought it was Harrison Ford.
Really?
When I first saw it, I was like, is that Harrison Ford? Huh. But no, it's Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah, it's Ben Mendelsohn.
Who is a good actor, actually. He was in Rogue One. He was the bad guy in Ready Player One. So he typically only does movies with one in the title. He kind of made an exception for this one.
But yeah, this is the first movie in the A24 coast we've seen with Ryan Reynolds since
The Captive. And you know what? Ryan Reynolds is so good in this movie that didn't even dawn on me until about halfway through.
I know.
I was at about halfway through. I was like, wait a second. The last time I saw you in an A24 movie, it was The Captive.
Oh,
and
God.
Not only was that movie bad, you were bad in it. Ryan Reynolds, you got some explaining to do.
What happened in these years? What happened to you? Did you make a deal with the devil?
Not only is he really good in this movie, Ben Mendelsohn really kills it in this movie.
Yeah, no, I thought
this movie,
did
if nothing else, and I say if nothing else, but I think it's very much more than just an acting powerhouse. But if nothing else, it is an acting powerhouse movie. Because Ryan Reynolds and Ben Mendelsohn are just great. And I love their chemistry, and I believe their characters.
No. We'll get to this a little bit later, but their chemistry I thought was going to turn into a little bit more than what it was.
Right. And see, I expected Ryan Reynolds... Okay, well, I don't really want to spoil it because I do like this movie, and I will recommend it, but I expected Ryan Reynolds' character specifically to turn out a different way. It kind of looked like it was setting it up to be a more sinister type thing, but it didn't really turn out to be that way. Ben Mendelsohn's character, on the other hand...
he was really fun to watch throughout this whole movie. Like, his character had such an interesting,
fun and, disturbing, and I feel for you, man. Like, you're really going through a hard time, and it's just difficult to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
He is just a broken man in this movie, and it's...
trying his best.
And it's just great. So, okay, we should talk basic plot. Ben Mendelsohn is a hopeless gambling addict who meets Ryan Reynolds, who's this really charismatic, much younger guy who is great at gambling, and he's like a lucky charm for Ben Mendelsohn's character. And the two of them really hit it off, and they make a plan to make a run down the Mississippi, hit every place on the way down, and ended up in, what is it, St. Louis, Missouri?
New Orleans.
New Orleans, right.
New Orleans.
They do go to St. Louis, Missouri, and they go to Memphis, Tennessee, which is pretty cool. I like the Memphis shots, and and so it's kind of a road trip movie, also kind of a hardcore gambling movie, and all the troubles that come with that, and yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I mean, there's as gambling goes, as this movie goes, there are a lot of ups and downs.
Yes.
As far as the characters go, like they have a lot of really bipolar situations where they're really happy and manic and very sad and depressed. And it ends up creating this really cool experience where you get to see how both characters deal with those situations, and it ends up being some really interesting acting coming from both of them.
Yeah, it's kind of a character study, which surprisingly enough goes two ways. You care the most about Ben Mendelsohn, and Ryan Reynolds is kind of a side character for the first portion of the movie, but after a while you start to focus more on Ryan Reynolds and his side of the story. And they're both interesting characters, and they've both got very different things going on.
Well, and just like you said, their chemistry and the relationship built in between them is so interesting, and how they treat each other.
Yeah.
And just it's very bizarre. It's very bizarre. There's a scene, a manic scene near the end, kind of where they're. I'm not going to spoil too much, but they're eating a large meal because they've just won money. And Dustin Hoffman,
Ben Mendelsohn,
starts complaining about his steak. And Ryan Reynolds is just like, nah, man, that's a great steak. He tried to bite it. He's like, it's fantastic. And he calls a waitress over, and he's like, I need a new steak. Give me a burger. And so it's very weird. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, I know it's difficult to explain. It's
It's like he's never satisfied. It's very interesting.
Right. Because he has crippling gambling addiction, and even when he's won, he hasn't truly won. He needs more all the time. He needs that next hit, and he can never take good enough.
Yeah.
That's his character, and it's this hopeless, depressing cycle of self-destruction, and that's what this movie's all about. That being said, the movie's not that depressing. It's just kind of dramatic.
Yeah.
But
I am curious to ask, but you don't answer on here. And if anybody else watches this movie and ends up having their own ideas, please email us at purplepandapodcast@gmail.com. But after this, we'll talk about it, me and you.
Sure.
How do you think this movie ended? Where do you think these characters went when it was over? Because it kind of leaves you in this kind of open space and in kind of a limbo where you're like, well, it kind of seems like they're doing this, but really it could go any way.
Yeah, and I kind of liked that.
I did too. I think it did well for this movie.
At first I was like, huh? Like, it seemed like it ended on kind of an anticlimax, but then I thought about it more on the places the characters are at, and it's like, it could go any of several ways.
So, if you guys end up watching Mississippi Grind and you have any theories on kind of where the characters are at and where they're going, please email us. I'd love to hear what your guys think. You guys think. But yeah, I really liked Mississippi Grind. I thought the characters were way cooler, way more interesting than anything I had seen prior. And it was all around just a better movie.
Yeah.
Easy win.
Very, 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 very easy win. Because like I said, I rated this movie quite highly, and I loved it. I don't know if I loved it. I had a couple problems with it, but I really, really liked it, and I hated Barely Lethal, so... It's unanimous. Barely Lethal wins this episode.
I'm gonna stab you, just like Ben Mendelsohn.
Just like Ben Mendelsohn got stabbed. Yeah. Oh, that was like the most realistic depiction of a stabbing I've ever seen. It was so not eventful. It's just, and he was like, "Oh no!"
He's like, "You got your knife!" And he threw it.
Yeah. He was like, "Oh man."
He's like, "Oh, I just got stabbed."
Yeah. It was like so not dramatic and so not like exciting. It's just
yeah.
He was just like, oh. He just bends over. Oh man, I don't know why such a horrifying scene gave me such joy.
I mean, it really wasn't that horrifying. It was very underwhelming.
I guess that's my point. It wasn't all that horrifying. It's just like, man, he just got stabbed.
That's awful, man. Come on, that sucks.
Yeah, but it's like,
oh, dang.
Oh, what can you do, you know?
Yeah, I guess.
This is the life you lead.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, very good. Definitely the winner of this episode. So congratulations, Mississippi Grind.
Woo! Now let's talk about next week.
Yeah, sure. Next week the movies are preordained. Neither of us picked either of them because we decided when we started this whole shenanigan that we would pair these two movies.
Destiny.
It is
written in stone.
the movie that is sequential is Amy.
Yep.
And the movie that we're picking is Supersonic. You can see where we're going here. They're both documentary type movies about musicians. So
Yep.
you're gonna do a double feature.
Yep.
And I've heard good things about Supersonic. I've never seen it, but you know, the Oasis are kind of an interesting group to me. So I don't really like Oasis that much, but
you're my Wonderwall.
exactly. No, my favorite is Champagne Supernova. It was the album closer for that particular album.
Great.
And yeah,
great.
Well, look forward to that. This is almost exactly 30 minutes.
Do you know anything about Amy Winehouse?
Not anything at all, no. I'm sure this documentary will teach me.
I'm hoping to learn something this coming week.
Me too.
And I'm hoping we can help teach you.
Yep.
And reach you. And greet you.
And meet you.
And feed you. No. Bye.
I can't think of another one. Alright, see you later. See you later.